Hello and welcome to this episode of Trash to Track. Now in this episode I'm going to be looking at this streamlined LMS Coronation Pacific Duchess of Devonshire, which I bought as a non-runner because I believe it's either got a split idler gear or a split drive gear, because it's a loco drive engine, nicely detailed sprung buffers, but the wheels are free to turn, as you can see here. One other thing about this engine is it is extremely dusty. I'm not sure if it's dirt as well, but it's very, very dusty and dirty inside the wheels and everything. Not sure where this has been stored, but when this was traded in, I've got a couple of these engines that are covered in dust to do. You can see there all the dust around the pickups. So I'm going to start by removing the body shell. There's a detail part missing there on the body, which we'll sort out later. The body shell is held on by a screw in the front, which is also linked through a spacer, and a screw underneath the footplate. And when you lift it off, you can see why I think these should be called bathtubs, because that streamlining looks like an upturned bathtub. Sorry for any LMS fans, it's just my opinion. So from here on in, it will be referred to as the bathtub. And you can see here just how dusty this is. Look at it, it is absolutely filthy, this thing. I'm not sure where it's been stored, but it's in absolutely dire condition. Weirdly, just taking the body shell off, the wheels have now locked themselves together again, which is unusual for a split gear. So putting it on the track and putting a battery on, it actually runs. But as you saw before, the wheels are free to turn, so I'm not quite sure what's happened there. So I'm going to give it a thorough dusting over before I start taking it apart with the old paintbrush. And there is a lot of dust. I mean, you wait until I take the base plate off. This thing is incredibly dusty. Why people let trains get like this? Because they're not exactly cheap. It's beyond me. So I'm going to remove the front pony wheel, and you can again see, look at the dust on there. This was horrible. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the gearbox cover and the motor. I'm going to check the idler gear first, but I am baffled now because you saw at the start that the wheels freely turned by hand, and now they seem to have self-rectified, which is a bit weird. And all I've done is upend it and take the body shell off. I've not actually done anything else. So to take the gearbox cover off, you have to remove that screw, which is also connected to a loco pickup. And this model is very dry. There's hardly any lubrication in this whatsoever. Even on the gearbox cover, there's not a lot. And to get access to remove the motor, you have to remove the rear pony truck and remove the motor mount screw, as you can see here. When I can get it out, once you remove that screw, the motor will just lift away, and that will give me access to the idler gear, which is prone to splitting on Hornby models, as regular viewers on the channel will have seen. But the idler gear actually is in very good condition. Again, very, very little lubrication to be spoken of, but it's not split, which means it must be the gear on the wheel that's split, if indeed it was split, because as I said, the wheels are now locked together. So using a cotton bud of mess, I'm going to clean out the remnants of that old grease that's in the gearbox, and I'm going to replenish that with some fresh lubrication. I'm also going to clean anything left on the idler gear, get rid of that, and then I'm going to replace that with some Labelle 106 gear lubrication, or gear lubricant. It really is good stuff, this Labelle 106. It's my favourite go-to grease for trains now. Just going to put a bit on that idler gear so it spreads through the drivetrain nicely, because it's very dry. It's strange because some of these models you open up and they're absolutely caked in it, and others, like this one, there's hardly any. I'm just putting a small amount of oil there on the spindles of the gear because they turn around in the die-cast chassis. So metal on metal does require some lubrication. Then once I'm satisfied that that's back in, I'm going to replace the motor, which is stuck in place with some black tack. Put that back on, make sure the worm gear is engaged with that idler gear. Another little bit of Labelle 106 just to spread through. And I'm also going to drop a small amount of oil on the motor bearing as well. Just a quick clean through of the gearbox cover. Like I said, not a lot in here at all, but it's worth removing the old stuff anyway. So that's all clean, and then I can replace that, and then replace that screw, making sure that the pickup brass solder tab is through the screw as well, because you need that for the loco to run. So I'm going to upend the loco now, and I'm going to remove the side rods with my hex nut driver. This is a 2.5mm hex nut driver, and it works well on these Hornby crank pins. So I'm going to remove the side rods from both sides, and then I'm going to remove the base keeper plate and pickup assembly. And when I take these side rods off, even these are dirty and covered in fluff and hair and God knows what. So these will all need cleaning up later on as well. I mean, look at it, it's just mank all over this train. It's all on my fingers and everywhere. But as I said, the worst is yet to come. Because now I've removed the base keeper, I get access to these pickups, and this one, this side, is pretty mangled. But just take a look at that dust that's just fell off there. I mean, look at that. That is the most, or the biggest clump of dust I've ever seen on a model. And this is one of about 6 that I find. And it is just dust all congealed around the brake shoes and the pickups on this model. And the thing is, the model's not showing that many signs of excessive wear. All the plating on the wheels is still there. I just think it's been stored badly. So this pickup was mangled. It was actually all bent up behind the wheel spokes. So I'm going to have to straighten that out later on. That one wasn't too bad, but there's again, look, another massive clump of dust. And then this base plate can be removed, revealing the driving axles with their correct proper bearings, which is nice to see. So I'm going to remove these and clean all these up. And the drive gear here confirms that it is actually a split gear on the axle. Not sure why it decided to lock itself back up again and run, but that definitely does need changing. That is the cause of the model not running properly. Probably the cause of why the model was stored so badly in the first place. But maybe the guy, it's horrible. Maybe the guy who had it that broke just stored it on the shelf or under his bed, and it never got used until he traded it into the model shop a few weeks ago. But I'm just cleaning the chassis block up now, removing all the dust and detritus. Look at it, it's disgusting. And then I'm going to set about changing that gear wheel. The non-driven axles are given a thorough clean as well. Cotton bud a mess again to remove any old lubrication that's on the axles and around the bearings. And all the dust that is in the spokes of the model is cleaned out with a paintbrush. Sorry, I forgot what it was called then. So to replace this, any regular viewers will know that I did a Princess up a few weeks ago, and I have an abundance of Princess spares. Now I do happen to have a good gear on a good axle, and these are identical wheels from the Princess to the Coronation. And you may be thinking, well, why don't you just put that wheel in? Well, the fact is the Princess wheels are heavily worn. The plating's worn back to the brass, so I'm going to take the gear off and swap it for the Duchess wheels, because the wheels on the Coronation, sorry, are in good order. So using this gear puller, I place it round the gear and then screw down gently, and that will pull the gear off safely. And I can get the screw to engage and just tighten it up gently, and it will push the axle away, bringing the gear forward. So that's the good gear. We'll use that. Now I've got a different wheel puller for this, and I'm just checking the quartering on this. As you can see, facing us, the quartering is at 12 o'clock, and at the rear it is at 9 o'clock. So I have to remember that when I put this back together. And this wheel puller is a different design. It goes over the wheel brims, and then again just tighten the screw, make the thread up, and it pulls the wheel off the axle, allowing me access to that broken gear, and that just slides off like no problem. So that's the broken one, and you can see there it is broken. I'm just comparing it. There's the my flat bladed screwdriver in the crack, just so that you can see it. And I do compare them, they are exactly identical. So the good gear is then going to be pushed onto the Coronation's axle. And I'm going to release the wheel from that gear puller or wheel puller. I'm going to remove the brass bearing because now I've got this wheel off. I might as well give this axle a thorough clean. And I'm glad I did, because there was some hair wrapped around the inside there which I wouldn't have been able to get off had I not took the wheel off. You can see it on the end of that cotton bud. So everything is thoroughly cleaned. Even the bearing insides were quite dirty, so I'll give them a clean as well. So now that's all clean, the bearing goes on first, followed by the new replacement gear that we've rubbed off one of the Princess wheels. Now this was gently pushed down into place. Just wiggling it, you can see my fingers wiggling, just pushing it down to where it should be, making sure that it's engaged properly. And then lining the wheel up, so the rear is at 9 o'clock, the front is at 12 o'clock, and I push the wheel onto the axle. Now this may need adjustment. That is just done by eye and in real time, as you saw there. And then this wheel can go back into the chassis. Now when the wheels are in the chassis, obviously I've cleaned them all. I'm going to add a small amount of oil so that the bearings are correctly lubricated, because cleaning everything, we've removed any of the old lubrication that was remaining. And then it's a case of putting the keeper plate back on, ensuring, did you see that green bit of tape? That needs to be there because that stops that wire shorting against the die-cast chassis. So make sure that's in line. Just pull the wire back through to make it nice and tight. The pickups were all straightened and cleaned. Again, these were filthy, absolutely filthy, covered in dirt and dust. And then the one that was all mangled was straightened out just using finger pressure. The brass is very, very thin. You don't want to overdo it because you can snap these, and then they are absolutely useless. They are also handed, so they will only go on one way. If you try and put them on the wrong way, they won't line up correctly with the wheel backs. So I line this up and put both the pickups back in. It's a very, very fiddly job. I do not like this design of pickups that Hornby did on a lot of their models from the early 2000s. And now with the battery, I'm just going to tighten the base plate up with the brake shoe gear and everything on it. And this presses down and holds the pickups in place. If you try and test it without putting this on, it won't work properly. Or at least it doesn't in my experience. But once the screws are all down, a battery test on each of the wheels. You can see the centre drive wheel there is spinning away. So I'm going to test all 6 wheels. And happily all 6 wheels are picking up as they should. So the side rods, as I said, were very, very dirty. They were absolutely covered in dust. So these were all cleaned with a cotton bud of mess. And then the side rods were reassembled, putting them back on correctly. Now you'll see now that I've taken the gearbox cover off again, and I've removed the idler gear. This is because I want to push this along on a piece of rail to make sure it's not locking up. And it's running absolutely fine. Look, smooth. Wheels are turning, no locking up. And to be honest, I've amazed myself that I got that quartering absolutely spot on. First time round. That's the first time I've ever done it. I got it right first time. And I did it on camera too, which is a bonus. So I'm just going to put all that back in as we did earlier. And then I'm going to clean up the pony truck. This is still full of dust. So I clean this all out with a cotton bud of meths and the paintbrush. And I also clean the wheels. And it's while doing this that I would look and I realise that the pickup wire from the tender drawbar is literally hanging on by a thread. So I take that off, trim the wire up, and then re-solder it back to where it should be, just to give a more secure join. And here's the chassis all back together, and that solder joint's been done. Battery on the tender drawbar, and the driving wheels are turning around lovely. No locking up, no stiff joints. So I'm really pleased we got that quartering right first time. And we've swapped the gear over. So the chassis for the loco is virtually done. And I've also used some Brasso and polished that tender drawbar pin up. You see there it's nice and shiny. And I'm going to remove the tender body shell because there's a lot of dust on this as well. So undoing that screw, the tender body shell comes off. And there's even dust inside this lot. I mean, how on earth did the dust get in there? But there's just so much dust on this thing, all in the grooves here. I'm going to go and wash these with warm soapy water. Use hand soap as fairy liquid is too abrasive. If you ever wash body shells, I use a toothbrush and hand soap. Do not use fairy liquid, it is far too abrasive. And it has in the past removed paint finishes. So I'm removing the coupling, removing the screws that keep the tender wheels in place because I want to clean all the pickups, clean all the wheels on the tender. Lifting this up, there we go, another big clump of dustlet. God, this is, it's just horrible. It's manky. It's not sticky or anything, it is literally just dust bunnies. But I dread to think where this model was sat in a box. So everything was dusted off with a paintbrush. Cotton bud and mess again to clean all the tender pickups. This locomotive has got 12 pickups in all, 6 on the loco and 6 on the tender, so it's a very reliable runner when they're all in touch with the wheel backs and correctly maintained. I clean the tender axles, clean the tender wheels, and then using a voltmeter when the wheels are back in, as you can hear they're bleeping, I'm just testing the continuity and making sure that all the pickups are on the wheel backs as they should be. Once I'm satisfied that's all done, the tender base plate is put back on and the screws are reinserted and tightened up. And then that large chunky coupling on the back there I'm going to replace with a clip-on NEM coupling that should just fit in place. And when I can actually get it to line up around that, I will get it in a minute. There we go, it just clips in place. And I've reattached the body shell now to the tender, and the tender's all done. And giving it a wash, the loco body, they've all come up really nice. All that horrible dust has been removed. Now to turn my attention to the missing detail part. Obviously you can't buy these as separate bits, but what I've got is I used to buy these Great British Locomotive magazines which come with these static models. Now these are exact carbon copies of Hornby and Bachmann locos. As you can see, they are just like a tooling, and luckily for me they come with all the detail parts. There's the tender's even got the NEM pocket on it. Now these are die-cast and plastic non-running locos, but they are handy to have because I do rob them for spares. And this one, even though the front's a bit smashed, it does have that detail part I need. Now removing this false floor, I'm not convinced that I can't use this body shell if I wanted to on the Hornby model. All the screw holes etc are the same and line up exactly. I could even use the chimney to change my Duchess of Devonshire into a double chimney loco. The only thing I will say that is if you ever buy these, you can't really stand them on your layout because the chassis and wheels are all die cast, so it will cause short circuits. So here's the pony truck off the static model, and there's the detail part we need. So using a pair of side snips, I'm going to cut this up. Just going to snip that off there. And then snip off the bit we need and then super glue it with some Loctite onto the Hornby body shell. And that is going to replace that missing detail part. So that's virtually it. When this is glued in, the body shell was put back on, including that silver tube of a spacer. And this beautiful looking red and gold bathtub, sorry to you LMS fans, it's been all rebuilt, thoroughly cleaned of all that horrible dust and dirt. Gear's been replaced. There is a front coupling on there because, as you know, my preserved line is end to end, so this will have to run tender first. But then saying that, if Duchess of Hamilton, when they restored this as they wanted to into streamlined form and return to steam, that would have been running at tender first at some railways. And I was just zooming in there to show you that that detail part really does look good glued on there. If you've got an engine or anything you'd like to see repaired, featured, DCC fitted on a future episode of Trash to Trap, please email me at dansmodelrailways@gmail.com. Have a look and get it sent over, and who knows, it may even feature in an episode all of its own. So I'm going to leave you now with the Streamlined Coronation, Duchess of Devonshire, running around the garden on a rake of Coronation coaches, although they don't have the gold stripes on because I don't have that stock. But I think you'll agree it does look rather nice running around like this. I'll have to get a blue one to complement it in the future. Thank you all so much for watching. Please like, share and subscribe, and I will catch you all in the next video. Bye for now.